Hello everybody, my name is Elena. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let's just get the two obvious things out of the way. First one, I'm sick. Second one, I'm going to be applying a lot of cream around my nose because it is raw from me blowing my nose. So you're going to be seeing a lot of shiny things happening around my nose and you're going to blissfully ignore it. I'm doing another reread with me. These are always full of spoilers, but this one is extra special because the first book that got me into reading was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. And I read that 10 years ago. I am 22 this year. I read it when I was like 11 or 12 for the first time. That was 10 years ago. And I just finished reading The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare, which is a spin-off series, but it includes the characters from the Mortal Instruments. And now I miss them. Now I want to be back in the world. I actually have a special copy that I'm going to be reading from. And I need to explain why I'm reading from that copy. I wanted to get the like paperbacks, but you know how there's ones where, the pictures line up? And there's ones where there's like a little black box and then the pictures still line up like down below, but there's like a little black box. I didn't want those. I wanted just like the spine that was just the photo that matches up when you put all the books in the series together. They didn't have the first book in that collection that I wanted, and they had all the other ones in that variety. And I was like, okay, well, the first book isn't going to match anyways, so it might as well not match in a spectacular way. So the book that I'm reading from is actually, where is it? Okay. The 10th anniversary edition of City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is a beautiful book. Look at it. Here, I'll let you stare at it. Yep. It's gorgeous. And then the iconic quote, "All the stories are true," at the back. Beautiful. I will show you what it looks like on the inside. I just want to say this is the 10th anniversary edition, and I'm rereading this book 10 years since I first read it. I think that is, shut the fuck up. That is so pretty. That's Clary. I don't know why I'm explaining to you who the characters are. You probably already know if you've clicked on this video, but there is character art inside, so I want to show you. We have Simon and Izzy. Perfect. We have Alec and Clary, and I think I skipped one. I did skip one. We have Jason Magnus. I love them so much. And then we have this Mortal Cup, and there's actually right at the end. Well, firstly, the other end paper is obviously Jace, but they also have like confidential files of files that the Clave have of the Shadowhunters, and I'm so excited to read that because I've never read it before. And I'm just ready to be back in this world with these specific characters. So that's what we're doing today. I've already picked my tabs. I also just want to say I will be annotating, fully writing, highlighting, underlining, tabbing this book. I don't care if it's a special edition. I'm just going to make it more special. I was apprehensive about it, but I was like, it's literally my book. I bought it with my own money. I can do whatever I want with it. So that's what I'm doing. And these are the tabs that I have picked. They're all blue and then one gray because the gray of like the foiling and stuff. Yes, this is the categories that I'm tabbing. They're basically the same in every book. It's romance characters, funny moments, sad moments, and quotes. I had an ungodly obsession with Jace Herondale when I was younger. I feel like everybody that read The Mortal Instruments had an obsession with Jace. I'm super excited to see what he's like now, like 10 years later. Now that I'm reading this, I'm 10 years older. I look for different things, obviously, in books now, so that's really exciting. I'm really interested to see if I'm gonna remember my reactions to certain parts of the book, because sometimes when I reread a book, I'll get like flashes of what I felt like when I first read it, and I'm really interested to see if that happens now. Those are kind of like my basic thoughts right now before starting it. We're on my little balcony, and while we're here, I just wanted to talk about briefly the movie and the TV show. I love the movie. I think the movie's great. I think it follows the storyline of the book pretty well. There's a wasp. I think it follows the plot of the book pretty well. I thought that the first time that I read the book as well, because I actually watched the movie first and then decided I wanted to read the book. So I'm feeling pretty confident on that front. I'll probably end up rewatching the movie. The amount of times I've watched that movie is actually insane, but I love it so much. The TV show, I really don't like. I am 3 chapters in. It's been a while since I last talked to you, but I read 3 chapters. I'm on page 64. And I can confidently say that I am just as obsessed with Jace as I was the first time that I read the book. Clary has jokes. I've been laughing at a lot of things she said. The humor is great. I have a new appreciation for Simon. I think that's due to the fact that back then when I was reading books, I didn't really care about side characters. I just cared about the main couple or whatever. Obviously, things have changed. I mean, it's 10 years later. I look for different things in books now. So I think I'm going to appreciate the side characters a lot more. And I'm having just an amazing time. I already have a lot of tabs. Like, I have like 5 in here, so it's been really good so far. I'm super excited. I love how much of a yapper Jace is because every time Clary says something or has some kind of information and then she shares it with everyone, and everyone's like, is there something Jace didn't tell you? Like, the boy can't shut up. I love that for him. I don't think I'm supposed to be finding Alec as funny as I am, because I've always found Alec funny, even when he's super pissy, the way that he is in this first book. Basically, Clary's talking to Hodge, right, about what happened. He's talking to her about how she killed the demon in her house, and then Alec's like, you actually buy that story? Like, she's a little kid and she's a mundane. And she's like, I'm not a little kid. I'm turning 16 on Sunday. And Hodge goes, the same age as Isabel. Would you call your sister a child? And then Alec replies, Isabel hails from one of the greatest Shadowhunter dynasties in history. This girl, on the other hand, hails from New Jersey. There's no way it should be as funny as it is, but I'm laughing so hard. And then she goes, I'm from Brooklyn. I am 130 pages in. I've encountered 2 really iconic moments. One of them, where Simon's talking to Claire and he's like, you're shacking up with some dyed blonde goth weirdo. And then Jason's like, actually, I'm naturally blonde. So that was really fun. And also that one scene, I love that scene, where Jace and Clary are going to her house to like go through her things. And Clary asks him about how he knew she was a Shadowhunter. So how he knew to put like an Arazzi on her, because if she's not a Shadowhunter, she's gonna die if she has a rune on her. And he goes, oh, I was 90% sure. And she's like, I see. And he turns around and she slaps him and he's like, the fuck was that for? And she's like, the other 10%. Slay. Slay. I love Clary so much, actually. Hello. It is Tuesday, and I think the last time I filmed was Saturday, so I do have to update. I am still reading the book. I'm taking it kind of slow. I'm reading it when I want to, and I'm so sorry if I don't seem enthusiastic in this clip, but I woke up to my period, and I'm not having a good day right off the bat. This is how far in I am. I'm at 57% in. I'm on chapter 15, and it has this beautiful illustration of Simon as a mouse, because that's where I'm at right now. Oh, sorry, he's a rat. They just went to go get him, and then the wolves showed up. So that's where I stopped last night because I was really tired. And I have a bunch of things to actually update you on and comment on. First one is the big one, where I don't think I realized how different the book and the movie were 10 years ago when I first read the book and watched the movie. It's decently different, the movie from the book, but it still follows the storyline. I think some scenes are not misplaced, but like they've switched them a little bit, and I'm not mad about it. I just thought it followed the book more closely, so it's like kind of shocking to me now that I'm rereading it. We've met Magnus. I'm so happy about that because I adore Magnus. He's one of my favorite characters. And every time Magnus shows up, he drops like some kind of really good line. So I have some tabs that I want to read out. Oh, this was so exciting for me because I was wondering if I would get that moment while rereading this book where I would remember what I felt like or remember reading that scene from like 10 years ago. And that did happen. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the books. And I'm going to talk about that one first. It's when they're getting ready to go to Magnus's party. And Izzy's like giving Clary her clothes and stuff, and she puts her in a dress, and it's kind of like, it has like a mini skirt or whatever. And she walks into the hallway, Clary does, and there's Alex, Simon, and Jace there, and Simon's just staring at her legs, and he's like, what are you wearing? And then Clary's like, okay, well, it's a dress. I know I don't wear them often, but come on, Simon. And then Jace, leaning against the wall, obviously, is like, oh, I actually like the dress. I mean, it looks great. And then he goes, oh, but there's something missing, and he gives her a dagger. And he's like, oh, I can get you like a sheath for the dagger if you want to carry it around. And then they start like walking out of the hallway to go to Magnus's party, and Jace and Clary kind of stay behind. And he goes, oh, and one more thing. And then he reaches over and takes out the pins holding Clary's hair, and so her like beautiful red curls just kind of fall down her back, and he's like, yeah, that's better. That's one of my favorite scenes, and I remembered when I first read it. Like, I remembered the moment and how I felt, and it was just a really cool experience, so that was really exciting. Let's talk about Magnus's lines in this book. First one that really made me be like, oh my god, is when Clary's talking to Magnus and he tells her that he's like been erasing her memory since she was like 2 years old and stuff like that, and he says, I've seen you every 2 years since that first time. I've watched you grow up. You're the only child I've ever watched grow up that way, you know. In my business, one isn't generally that welcome around human children. And that just tugged at my heartstrings because I was like, wow, he really just loves people, huh? And then they're talking about the clave and stuff like that, and Magnus is like, yeah, I was there during the time of the circle and stuff like that, and Magnus goes, yeah, I killed a number of your folk, and Jace goes, well, circle members, not ours. And then Magnus hits him with, if you insist on disavowing that which is ugly about what you do, you will never learn from your mistakes. I was like, okay, Jesus. Another line that Magnus drops on Clary is when he gives her it's when he gives her the gray book, and he's like, look at them until you feel something shift in your brain. And she's flipping through the runes, or well, she's about to flip through like the runes, and she looks at him and she goes, will it hurt? And he says, all knowledge hurts. I feel personally violated by Magnus in this book. One really funny moment that happens in that same chapter, Clary's like, okay, what is this book filled with little pictures? And Jace is like, oh, it's like the Gray Book. It's been written over periods of years. The Gray Book contains runes even I don't know. And Magnus goes, imagine that. he's over here humbling Clary and Jace left and right, and it's really so funny because when you look at it, if you've read the other series, Magnus is always the person someone calls when they fuck up. He's literally so tired, like, let the man live. He's like, I've been dealing with little teenage Shadowhunters for so fucking long, basically my whole life. I need a break, and it's always the same thing over and over again. It's just so funny. I don't think we give this book enough credit for how funny it is and how like the comedic timing is perfect, because they're talking with Magnus in his room, and then he's like, okay, enough, move it along, teenagers. The only person who gets to canoodle in my bedroom is my magnificent self. Canoodle, repeats Clary. Magnificent, repeats Jace. It's so funny. I don't know if it's just funny to me because I have this like attachment to it, or if it's actually funny, but I think it's actually funny. Alec, Clary, and Jace are talking about how, oh, I wish I knew like where to start searching for her. And Alec was like, yeah, if we had the slightest idea where to look, it would have been easier. And Jace goes, but we do. And Clary's like, you do? Where? And he goes, here. And it says, Jace leaned forward, touching his finger to the side of her temple so gently that a flush crept up to her face. Everything we need to know is locked up in your head under those pretty red curls. Pretty red curls? I'm sorry, I can't. And another thing is, I don't think we give Jace enough credit for how perceptive he is, because he is really perceptive and really smart. Like, we always say, oh, like, he's one of the best shadow hunters, but we never really talk about how he notices things. And that's what I've noticed in this book. It's like, for example, when they're walking to Magnus's party, he's like teasing Clary or whatever, and they're having their little banter, and she says something, and he goes, okay, there's a line between being sarcastic and being mad at me, and you've crossed it. What's wrong? And the fact that he can just pick up on that, and they haven't even known each other for that long, is really impressive. So yeah, props to him. That's all I have to say right now. I'm probably gonna go read this because there's no way I'm doing anything else with this period today. So yeah, I will update you next time that I feel like there's something to update on. Okay. It's Wednesday. I didn't actually read anything yesterday, even though I said I would. I just kind of wasn't feeling it, so I just watched YouTube all day, basically. But today, I'm actually going to finish the book because I finished reading 100 pages and I have about 100 pages left. And the story is really kicked off now because it's like the climax and everything, so I'm going to get through it pretty quickly. I just wanted to update on this part of what I've read. First thing that I'm noticing is that I actually really enjoy Jace's character. I think you can tell that there's a lot of layers to his character. I don't mind the writing. I thought it would be a bit worse, and at some parts, you can tell that it's a bit more immature than her writing is now, which is obviously understandable because it's so many years later. Like, The Last Hours is like a series that she like just finished writing. Obviously, it's going to be different from what she wrote like whenever this book was published. I don't actually know the publication date, but it was like this is her first book, and that's like her last book that she's written so far, so obviously there's going to be differences, but I thought it would be a bit more drastic, and it's not. And that's actually a good thing because that means this is also pretty well written, in my opinion. It's still really funny, which I'm enjoying. I love the humor. That's probably like one of my favorite parts about the book. What happened plot-wise is they saved Simon. Obviously, he's not a rat anymore, and there was one scene that really tugged at my heartstrings, and it was when... You know how they're on the motorcycle, Jace and Clary, after they save Simon, and then they crash because the sun starts rising? When they crash, Simon turns back into a human, and Clary and him are like hugging and stuff like that, and Jace is just kind of staring at them. And it says, when she glanced back just for a moment, she saw Jace turning away as if the brightness of the rising sun hurt his eyes. It's not what hurt his eyes. I love the way Jace loves. And that's something to do with Herondales, because Herondales always love the same way, and there's that, you know, that line in The Last Hours that's like, oh, Herondales love once. I love the way that Herondales love and the way that they treat their partners, and it's just, there's something about it that's so deep and visceral, it's almost bordering on unhealthy. And there's something about it that enamors me, and I love it. And then after they go back to the Institute, after they crash the motorcycle, and Jace is waiting on, like, the little medical bed to get, like, patched up. And there's this really funny scene that made me laugh out loud. He turns to Clary, and he goes, do you remember back at the hotel when you promised that if we'd lived, you'd dress up in a nurse's outfit and give me a sponge bath? And Clary goes, actually, I think you misheard. It was Simon who promised you a sponge bath. Jason voluntarily looks over at Simon, who smiles at him wildly. As soon as I'm back on my feet, handsome. That was really funny. And then we have one of my favorite moments of all time in this series, and that is the greenhouse scene when it's Clary's birthday, and Jace gives her a witch light. And I love that he phrases it as well, because he gives her the witch light. He goes, all shadow hunters have a witch light rune stone. And as she's holding it, it starts glowing in her hand. And he goes, it'll always bring you light. That's just so sweet. And then they talk about, like, things that they've gotten for their birthdays and stuff. And then she mentions, oh, actually, for my 12th birthday, I asked my mom if I could get a tattoo. And she said no. And he's like, you know, that actually kind of makes sense because shadow hunters get their first marks when they turn 12, so it's probably in your blood. And I was like, why does everything he say make me want to cry? Because that's how I feel. But also I'm on my period, so it very well might be that. But my love for Jace is thriving. And then right afterwards, we have the scene that I don't like, which is when they go back to Clary's room and Simon walks out of her room because he was sleeping in her bed. And it's that whole... you invited him to bed, and Clary's like, I didn't invite him into bed, and then Jace is like, oh, I know, it's ridiculous, we never would have all fit, and then he kind of dismisses his feelings because he's hurt because Simon was in her room, and it's this whole big miscommunication. I don't like that scene. I don't, because I am an avid hater of the miscommunication trope, but you know what, it's fine. And then finally, Clary figures out that when she draws things, she can reach into the photo and she can reach into the painting and then pull things out, and then she figures out that she can make new runes, and she draws that rune and then picks the mug out of a thing, and then she's like, oh my god, I know where the mortal cup is. And what I noticed is that there's actually a lot of differences between the movie and the book about when they actually go to Madame Dorothea's house to retrieve the mortal cup, because It's not really like that in the movie, and what I'm trying to say is it's a lot different than what I thought, like the movie and the book. So I'm glad I'm rereading it, because in my mind it was like almost perfectly following the book, and it's not. I still think the movie's really good though, and I am gonna rewatch it as soon as I finish reading the book. And then there's the iconic line of, "Unfortunately, my only true love remains myself," which is obviously Jace's line, and then Madame Dorothy is like, "Well, you don't have to worry about rejection then," and he's like, "Not necessarily. I turn myself down occasionally just to keep it interesting," which is also one of my favorite lines of him. I just love when he's really sarcastic. Hodge. I knew that what Hodge does, like I remembered that whole plot line. I knew I wasn't supposed to like him. I knew he was going to turn on them. I just forgot how much I hated him until that happened. So yeah, my Hodge hate is like in full force. And he has just given up the Mortal Cup and Jace over to Valentine. Great. No, that's great. That's so cool. And Alec is fucking hurt. And I know for a fact that Magnus is supposed to I'm sorry, I thought that there's a window over there, and I thought there was another person staring at me from the other window, from the building across from me. Anyways, Alec's hurt. No one knows where Jace is, and now Clary has ended up with Luke, and he's about to explain to her everything, and I'm kind of scared, because this is when that whole storyline about, oh, Jace and Clary are actually brother and sister when they're not, and that whole storyline's gonna happen, and I'm not excited about it, but that happens in part 3, and I have about 100 pages left, but I'm gonna make a hot cocoa and then finish them. I finished it, and I love... Oh, my mom's calling. Hold on. We're back. I loved this. I gave it 4.25 stars. I do obviously have some qualms with it, so I will talk about them, but I just wanted to talk about some of the scenes that I read, like in these 100 pages. First of all, it was very clear to me, even the first time that I read the book, that Clary and Jace were not brother and sister. It was just crystal clear in my head. I was like, there's no way that they're brother and sister, because there's literally nothing connecting him. The only thing that's like proof is Valentine, and Valentine's a lying liar, so why the fuck would you even believe him? And every time they're like, oh yeah, like, you're definitely brother and sister. What do you... She's ginger, he's blonde, Valentine has black hair, and Jocelyn has red hair. So yeah, Jocelyn, Clary, and Valentine, sure, yeah, they could be a family, because Clary would get her hair color from her mom. Jace is blonde, and he very specifically says in the book, he's naturally blonde. So how the fuck is he Valentine's kid? He isn't. It was very blatantly obvious. I feel like that's why it didn't bother me, the whole siblings storyline, as much in the books as it does to other people. Like, I understand there's some lines that are yikes, like that one line, I think, from City of Ashes. It was blatantly clear to me that they weren't siblings, so I just look past it. That was the first thing that I needed to talk about, because so many things don't add up, and I love how everyone's just, like, believing them. Why? Because Valentine said so. Because Valentine's a very reliable source. You know, his mindset is just perfect. His mental health is great. We should all really believe him. I completely forgot how much I loved Luke. I'm obsessed with Luke. I love him. I love his character. And I loved Alaric and... oh, I forgot her name. She died. Well, so did Alaric, but... hold on. I'll find it. Gretel. Okay, yes. Alaric and Gretel, I really liked. There's this, like, battle conversation thing happening where Jace finds out that Clary's a sister when really she isn't, and there's a scene where Jace starts rebelling against Valentine, and it says, a spasm of fury twisting his features, Valentine looked at his son. Not his son, but you know. She would never forget that look. It made her feel a sudden, wild longing for her mother, because no matter how angry her mother had been with her, Jocelyn had never looked at her like that. She had always looked at her with love. Have I mentioned I hate Valentine? Like, was Jace's trauma not enough? Did he also have to go through all of this? Luke being fatherly towards Jace and, like, putting, like, his hand on Jace's hair and, like, rubbing all the glass off of it, and Jace is just sitting there because he's never known parental warmth, and he's like, well, this feels kind of nice. Broke me.
literally broke me. And I liked that right at the end, Clary kind of rekindled with Izzy, and Izzy was like, you know what? I could get used to having a girl as my friend because I've never had one. That doesn't mean I can't have one now. And no, they're not as jealous with each other, and I really like that. And I also like that Clary rekindled with Alec, and Alec was actually like cracking jokes with her. I'm like, that's the Alec I love. And now I wanted to talk about one part of the writing that really stuck with me, that I love the way that Cassie did this, and it's one of the signs where you know that she's going to be a good author, and she did end up being a great author, even if this isn't her best work. Like, it has so much potential, you can notice it everywhere. This is one of those prominent moments, I feel like. It's when Clary is talking to Luke, and then they need to find places where Valentine could be or something. I don't remember correctly. They're trying to find this place, and she calls Simon on her phone so he can Google all the places that they could be. And because she's talking to him on the phone, we can't see Simon. We can't know what he's doing. And I'm going to read you the paragraph. Simon snorted, "You're kidding. They don't have computers there? You know what? Don't answer that." She heard the sound of a door opening and the thump meow as Simon's mother's cat was banished from his perch on the keyboard of his computer. She could picture Simon quite clearly in her head as he sat down, his fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. That is such a smart way to explain what a character that you can't see is doing, because she's explaining it as if you can see him, but she's wording it in a way that makes sense, because you wouldn't be able to tell what he's doing. She's talking to him over the phone, but she knows him so well that she can imagine. She's like, oh, I can imagine him doing exactly this, which is immediately telling you exactly what he's doing without actually saying it. And that is so fucking smart. And I reread that so many times. I'm like, that's genius. How do you even think to do that? That is lovely. And I love that. And I will always love Cassie's writing because it's so good. And oh my god, in Magnus's file, it says name. And usually it's just like their name. They're like their first name, middle name, last name. And in Magnus's, it says Magnus Bane, aka Harbinger of Debauchery, aka the Glitter Cyclone, aka the Fashionable Gentleman, aka the Great Poison, aka Cat-Eyed Van Nifterick, aka the Long-Lashed Lad of London, aka Magnus Mon Magnus, aka Sweet Cheeks. So yeah, I finished it. I really liked it. I probably will be reading the other books, but I'll be taking it slow. For now, I think I've had my fill of this world. And it has been great for getting me out of like a little rut that I was in with reading, and I'm so glad that I have this edition because I keep staring at it and it's really fucking beautiful. And I'm about to go put it right there where George the gnome is, and I'm gonna put it on display because it fits perfectly. So that's what I'm gonna do. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for rereading this book with me. I'm going to eat lunch and then probably rot in bed and watch the movie because I really want to do that. So thank you so much for watching. Oh, no, before I go, I need to say something. There was one line where Jace was like, oh, like, if we get the Mortal Cup and if we return it, like, they're gonna know us forever. Like, people are gonna know our names. And that really hit home because they do know their names. Like, they started everything. In every single series that comes after City of Bones, Jace and Clary are always mentioned. The Lightwoods are always mentioned. They've left such a mark on this world, and it just made me so emotional. I think that's the note that we're gonna end on. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for going on this journey with me. You can like, comment, subscribe if you'd like, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.